If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts. Grimerica's
The blah blah blah.
Sending out good vibes.
The blah blah blah.
Good vibes.
Blah
Good vibes.
the blah blah blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection, and put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track, shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
Tax dollars had been paying for genocide and all of these other things over many years, I would probably spend I did spend a serious amount of time in a state of real repentance about that. I cried about it a lot.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica Show. We, or G only, is going to be talking to Greg Paul of the Sovereign Way a little bit later. I wasn't here for this one. Was this one over the pond or something? Why wasn't I here?
Yeah, he was over it was one of those days where I had a couple interviews scheduled over the pond and you were pretty busy, so.
It was that same day where I didn't realize it in the schedule and just sidetracked the whole thing. So you were solo.
That's fine every once in a while. At least I can do that now, you know.
You can hold up the fort like you're doing down at CAC right now.
Doing that down in Soap Lake, Washington with Randall Carlson and the gang, Brothers of the Serpent, Ben from Uncharted X. Yeah, it's fantastic. We're traveling around the Scablands and we're blowing people away. Randall's blowing minds.
Dave Matheson this week.
Dude, and Brandon Powell was here last week. Dude, the weather's been I couldn't believe today. Somebody asked me about the weather. I looked today. It was 31, 32 today.
Oh, yeah, it's supposed to go up to
a hot summer day, man.
It's supposed to go up to 28 here or something this week.
Yeah, so the whole day has been like usually 24, 25 during the day. We stop, take some swims, check out like the Dry Falls, the Grand Coulee, and the Moses Coulee, and the Steptoe Butte, and the Palouse Falls. Like it's been fantastic, and the good people are amazing. People are coming back for like they were at other events with us, and they're coming back. It's great.
You guys have the new moon was just on Saturday. So are you guys doing star stuff tonight with Dave?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Dave, we got to do star stuff at some point.
And it's like the brightest Jupiter's been in the last 100 years or something, or 60 years.
Wow. Tonight?
Tonight. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy on the weekend already, but I read something today that said tonight's the brightest of all.
Okay. I'll mention that to Dave. Make sure he's on top of that.
Totally.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been great. We're looking forward to doing more events and stuff, and people are digging it.
Well, people can jump on for Magic on the Mountain coming up in February. That shit is really starting to fly off the shelf with Brandon Powell, Owen Hunt, Joe Roop, Greg Carlwood from the Higher Side Chats. We're going to have Greg on the show here soon.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Did I not tell you that yet? I've been meaning to text you to tell you to connect with Greg because we'll do a little class.
You just set it up and then get me to fill in the details.
Well, yeah, because you're the booker. You took over that role, so I don't want to step on your shoes. So I was just like, I'll get Graham to text you and we'll set up the show. And because I think there's got to be like 25 or 30 spots gone for that now out of probably 50. We might bump it up to 60, but it ain't going to last long. If you want to go get a ticket, contact at thecabin.com. You can just put down a deposit, hold your spot, $500. It's not bad. So I didn't get an antelope with my bow, and now they're done rutting.
Oh, what? That was fast?
Yeah, that's it. No more.
Did you go out again? Did you go out?
I went out several times. Yeah, I went out last Monday and Tuesday.
Did you try taking any shots, or did you get close again?
No, I never got as close as I did that one time. So I did on Tuesday when I went out, I shot a rabbit with my bow. So I got my first kill.
I saw that, dude. It's like, but you just had pet rabbits, dude. How can you just go out and kill a rabbit when you just had pet rabbits?
I made rabbit stew from it.
Rabbit stew coming right up. That's right out of the Holy Grail. Did you know that? Rabbit stew coming right up.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you ever had rabbit stew?
No.
Huh. Well, it was pretty good. And it was like a campfire rabbit stew, too, so it was even better.
Yeah, that's probably the way they make the Night of the Holy Grail was trying to make it too. Probably big campfires.
Yeah.
But he got killed. The rabbit chopped his head off. I think chewed his head off.
I needed a first kill, so that'll do. I'm still going to go out and get an antelope with my rifle on the weekend. Sunday. Sunday's the day. I got my on a certain buck who I wasn't able to get close enough to with my bow. But now I got his number with my rifle. And then I'm going to go down to the to my deer spot and try and get them with a bow for a while.
Huh.
Yeah, because I think I could get a deer when it's not rutting. They're a little easier to sneak up on in those coulees.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty hard to sneak up on something just in the open prairie. And I have that decoy.
This must be like a whole different thing of hunting.
Yeah, I have that decoy, but rifle season starts, I think, today, and I don't want to get shot because I'm sneaking up behind a decoy and some dumbass.
Yeah. Oh my God! Imagine that. Eh?
That's how I go down. I get shot by a hunter.
your bad dream from when you were like 9 years old almost came true. You know, it wasn't a growl; it was a bang.
It was a gunshot.
So, are we having Greg on the Outlawed show or other show?
Didn't we already have him on Outlawed?
Show? Well, I'm asking like what the plan is for that you and Greg talk about.
We didn't.
Coming on
No,
again.
we didn't.
I'm asking you for what am I supposed to schedule here?
I'd say this show, the regular show.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Greg on the rag.
I mean, speaking of Greg, this is a good chat with Greg Paul about the Sovereign's Way. He's been through this for decades, right? This whole freedom movement and all this stuff. It's kind of gone all the way around to a spiritual thing. In 2017, he created the Sovereign's Way Academy to help people learn how to step into their true, authentic, sovereign self and become their own master in every way. So this academy is an online learning community hosting a sovereignty training program directly from one of the originators of the world's largest sovereignty movement. So he's also a prolific writer, sharing a blog with insights on his personal sovereign path and his inner journeys. So it's he's kind of like had years of personal exploration living outside externally imposed money, government, legal, and other systems. It's kind of about the law of mankind, but it's almost simpler than all these other things that we've been talking about in the show, like common law and all this other stuff. This is kind of more simpler.
More simpler?
Yeah, more simpler.
Is Kyle there yet?
Yeah, he just showed up.
Hi, Kyle.
He's not here. He's not in the room here.
Oh.
So, yeah, and do we want to tease the other thing coming up?
Oh, the DB Cooper thing? Well, I've been trying to tease it for a month, bro. So, I mean...
Well, I thought I just didn't want to cause a
ruckus?
A ruckus, dude. Because
I'm excited.
We don't want to get sucked into the Cooper vortex.
I do. I'm kind of like, we don't
want to. It'll change everything. We don't want to.
We're not going to become a DB Cooper. We're going to have a third podcast, a DB.
But dude, I'm telling you,
it's a rabbit hole.
There's a Cooper con. There's a rabbit hole. There's a Cooper Vortex podcast already. There's a whole thing, and they've got there's 30 different books and suspects, and I mean this is a intense community of.
What if the shoot gets verified?
Armchair sleuths trying to figure it out, right?
What if the shoot gets verified while we're there?
Dude, I'm telling you this. I mean, this is really interesting. The angle.
This has got to be like the most I would say cutting edge thing we've done.
Well,
I don't know if cutting edge is the word. Most
Yeah. We were going to do something else like it, but I don't think it happened. I remember we were going to go out and do live interviews for something. But
we did Jamie Jan over that time downtown.
Yeah, but there was more. Yeah, there was some more we were going to do. I think, but this is
way more exciting.
And this is a big thanks to Brandon Powell. And I mean, do we want to talk about who it is and stuff? Or
no, let's not get that far. Let's not tease that much.
Okay. So, but big thanks to Brandon Powell, who's kind of helping us out with this, setting it up, and we're gonna go interview this what we think
give him the gist.
The real DB,
the son.
We think and I'm thinking of I think I'm agreeing so far from what I've learned in researching this. I've been listening to a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and I think this is the real.
It's hard
real
to
McCoy,
fucking
you know?
not believe it. It's a real McCoy. I'm telling you, it's hard to not think so. So the gist of it is that we're going out into the field because, for reasons we won't get into yet, the son of the infamous DB Cooper has been unable to talk about it because he didn't want to implement some people. But now that's all done. So, and there was like some lawsuits and stuff like that, but now he's ready to talk. And just because we just happen to fucking luckily know some people who know some people, we just know the right people luckily on this one. It seems like we're going to get
A bit of a scoop.
a scoop. Is that a scoop? Is that, I was going to say it's because it's not exclusive, but it's a scoop.
It's not an exclusive, but it's
because other
maybe
people are
that's
going to
the
get
way
it all eventually, but
Yeah.
we get to be
Yeah.
first.
And somebody else has already sort of done some work on this.
Someone
too.
else is
He's
pretty on the
found
ball,
out,
and he's coming to
But the-
watch.
But the cool part is that this is outside of like the documentaries. They're all glossing over all this. This is like against the narrative, of course, which makes it super fun for Grimerica, right?
Yeah, it's great. This is great.
Yeah.
And I think it's the real DB Cooper. And there's a real chance that it could be proven by the end of the year. Proven right. You know what? Our first guest was proven right. What did it take?
Yep.
6 years? 6 years before they came out and said Ephraim Palermo from
Yep.
Grimerica episode 1 was actually correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're doing that. We're going down. Well, we're going down to the southeastern United States, down in Virginia for a while. October 6th to 10th ish for Canadian Thanksgiving, and we're gonna get to shoot up some badass guns too. And you know who else is gonna be there is Mark England.
Oh, cool.
That remember we had him on the show about.
Yep.
Yeah. It's gonna be a great weekend. I think Bill the Shill. We'll probably meet up with Bill the Shill.
Maybe
Yeah.
Mike.
Maybe Mike Salvatore.
People might know some of
Liberal
these
Mike.
people from the chats.
Yeah.
Salvatore, I'm going to meet up. I'm going to go back east and meet up with Salvatore and Peter.
Back east.
Yeah, back east.
Well,
So, I mean, I'm
we're
killing
pretty
time,
back
man.
east.
I'm
We're like
killing
2
time.
hours from the coast. This will be as far east as I've ever gone. Well, no,
Wow, yeah.
Newfoundland, I guess, would have been further.
And I'm killing time down here because I didn't want to travel back across the border. But I mean, I could have done it now that Canada's finally waking up and getting rid of some mandates. This would
Or
be
you could still do
fantastic.
it if you want.
Drive freely. No, I got too much stuff booked and all that now.
What are you going to do?
So speaking
Oh,
of the
because you're
chats,
going straight down. Are you going straight down there to meet up with Salvatore?
yeah.
Nice.
So speaking of the chats,
That'd be
you
cool.
you created a Telegram for us. I was thinking about doing that a while ago, a couple of times, and I thought I don't really have time to do that. But I mean, I think it's good that we might as well, right? For people that
Well-
like that. It's easy to forward stuff back and forth.
Here's
Once
the
you're in
thing.
Telegram, it's easy to kind of like
Yeah.
do that.
I'm stuck on Telegram. It's just another place to just dump shit in
Yeah.
case the other stuff gets shut down.
Is it because you're getting put in the penalty box for your memes and other
Well,
places? So now you gotta
I'm
create your
also,
own
I have some,
Grimerica
I don't
meme
want,
pool, or-
I got in trouble on Twitter again and got another little suspension. And I got
What?
a little
On
Facebook
Twitter? Dude, you gotta
suspension.
be careful with Twitter.
I
We need
know.
Twitter.
I try. I'm trying. We need Twitter. I know. I should just stop posting altogether on Twitter.
Just use it for getting a hold of people.
I called Trudeau a fag. Bum, bum, bum. They call it hate speech. They call me a hate speecher. Anyway, and then I got a Facebook suspension too. You should make a Facebook profile. Can you?
I don't want to make it. No, I don't want. Not. There's no way I'm going on to Facebook now. Dude.
You don't
I
have to
even go on
post. You don't have to
Instagram
post
except for
anything
the
ever.
show. That's it.
I just want to transfer ownership of the Grimerica page
No,
to
are
you.
you kidding me? No. I'm
Well,
gonna
when
get
I was
canceled.
suspended from Facebook, they wouldn't let me post on the page.
Oh boy.
So
How long is the suspension for?
it's over now, 3 days. But I came out of the
Okay,
box
so-
swinging.
And then so I saw Ryan too. Did Ryan ask you, like, how did this Discord thing get reacted?
Well, okay. Here's the
Now we're
thing.
back
So
on
that
this
was a
one.
Telegram too, because I've had a bunch of people contact me about starting a Telegram. You know,
Okay.
it seems like one a month. You should start Telegram. And I was resisting all that, and we had shut down the Discord because we were setting up the Mattermost thing, which was all self-hosted and all that. And the only way we were going to get people to go through all the trouble of getting onto that was to not have all this other easier shit available. But now we got, it seems like the 300 or 400 or 500 people or however many people are in the chat server, the Grimerica chat server that are in there, we're not getting any more. So I was just like, I started the Telegram and it didn't seem right to start the Telegram up and not do the Discord because, the people have been freaking out about the Discord for years. Literally for 2 years, people have been upset about the Discord getting shut down. So I told Ryan to just fire it back up.
That's fine.
And he was talking about trying to figure out a way to maybe he can marry the two. And at least, the chat server is up. It's viable. It's running. It's been running for 2 years. There's hundreds of people in it. It's super active. So if the Discord does get shut down, it's not the big deal. We can just say, I told you so.
Yeah. That's fine.
I won't be on Discord.
Because I don't think we're making that much of a difference by protesting and leaving Discord because we don't agree.
I won't be there. I personally, if you want to chat with me, you won't be able to chat with me in the Discord. I don't go on Discord.
But we might want. We could even just use that to go live. Like I was talking to Russ from the Brothers of the Serpent, and they just go live on the Discord for their Discord people too. Like we could do intros like this. We could just be connected to Discord and live for people. What? No,
they can have their Discord, but I won't be part of it.
All right.
If they want to chat with me, they can come to the Grimerica.ca/chat.
What about just doing an audio? Like what about connecting audio to it?
If you can do it.
Oh my God.
Because I would have to make a Discord account to do that.
What?
I'm not remaking a Discord account.
You're not even there? Like you're not even like
no, I deleted it all.
Can't you log in log into your computer with
I wouldn't have access to the fucking disc. I'm not an admin. Because my Darren account.
You could log in with mine then in your computer. Because it has to be through you.
No. I don't do Discord.
All right, okay.
Hey, I just asked you to make a Facebook account. You told me to go fuck myself. Are you doing a quote?
No, I don't think so.
No quote, no nothing?
No, because I'm using my phone for this, and I just don't have a quote ready.
All right. Well, there you have it. Support the show. Grimerica.ca/support. If you're getting some value from our lazy ramblings, we're going to keep it short this week. Graham's on the road. He's on the road for a month straight. Probably his longest excursion since going full time.
Oh, yeah, by far.
Yeah, it'll be almost a full month?
No, it's just 3 weeks.
Is it? So about the same as Egypt. Anyway, support the show. Grimerica.ca/support. Check out our other show, GrimericaOutlawed.ca. If you want to check out some more, I guess you'd say, risque topics. Our last one was great. Isabella from whose body is it?
Feedback from that. Oh
yeah,
my God,
a ton.
Last few shows have been fantastic.
Yeah, there's never been a better time. Never been a better time to check out Grimerica Outlawed. If you haven't, we had Chris Knowles. The Billboard Chris show was fantastic. Isabella was fantastic. It's just been a couple of great shows in a row. There's never been a better time to check it out. Pay that $6. See if you like that other half. GrimericaOutlawed.ca. Other than that, you can head over to Grimerica.ca. That'll get you links in the menu to everything we do, from audiobooks to books to tours to whatever we're up to. So enjoy the chat. I forget his name.
Greg Paul.
Enjoy the chat with Greg Paul.
By the way, I do a bio in an intro later on. Darren and I do a big intro for each episode. So I'll just bring you in and we'll do the bio and stuff later.
Okay, cool.
Greg Paul, thanks for joining us in Grimerica. How you doing?
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, I'm doing really well today. Thanks. How about yourself?
Not too bad. You know, daytime show. You're with somebody across the pond. I love talking to people from all over the world. So this will be interesting.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one.
And of course, it's a topic that I'm trying to wrap my head around, like we were discussing before we started recording. This sovereignty, common law of man. So I think you're going to be able to help me kind of simplify this and wrap my head around it. I mean, it's such an important topic right now, right? I mean, it must be weird for you being involved in this for decades and then seeing this sort of like happen to humanity and being involved in sort of like helping people exit the matrix. It must be pretty weird for you.
Yeah. The funny thing is I started putting together the course that we now do in like October of 2019.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And so I'm just envisioning this thing that's coming together after, like 15, 20 years of like figuring everything out. And I'm putting together this thing. And 2 months later, the world goes crazy. Yeah, and opens up like the perfect, and now everyone at last realizes they need this thing.
Exactly.
So it couldn't have been more divinely timed. Really.
Yeah, exactly. But it's hard to. It's just hard to. We've been sort of stuck in this paradigm for so long that we're just like, the government's there and we got to pay our taxes and we got to follow these laws. It's so hard to break through. This is probably the one kind of sort of. Structure of the matrix that must be the hardest in a way.
Well, yes, but because it's actually the simplest, and the simplest things are the hardest to get always, aren't they?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
What drove me in all this and always has driven me in all this is that I could see from being from a young age that if you sit down and play any game, you learn how to play. You play cards, or you get a new board game at Christmas, and you get before you do anything, you read the instructions because you can't play the thing unless you read the instructions.
Right.
But there was no real rule book. There was no rule book that came with how do I use this body, this life. It was like I've been taught these things from this man and woman here and all the other people around me, but a lot of what they say doesn't really make sense. I'm not entirely sure that that's really the rule book. What is it? What is the rule book for life? I pretty quickly figured that was the law in one way or another. And so I think many of us come to this place of seeing that basically some kind of understanding that law is the rule book for life. But then we get trapped into the wrong form of law. And so the question has always been for me, where that felt wrong is, where is the source of law? What is law really? And how do all these different laws interact with each other? Ultimately that takes one on a very spiritual journey to find out who they are, because the source of law is I. The source of law on this planet, the source of man's law is every man and woman individually. And what we have playing out in the world right now is a consequence of the collective expression of law of we of mankind into this planet, into this place.
What was that?
Some of mankind have had more deceptive intentions, and they've managed to assert their version of what law should be, their expression of law, and get everyone else to agree to it. But ostensibly, at the heart of all of this is that any single moment, any one of the people listening to this, you or I, can just stop doing that and express our own law for our own life. And it has always been that way. And it'll always be that way. And the gift now, really, of what's going on in these times is that it's compelling everyone to, well, either you're going to go and find yourself now in a totalitarian nightmare from which you cannot escape, and or you stand up and discover what it is to be a man or woman in law, express yourself, your own law, take control of your own life and face your fears. That's really what's happening.
Has this been acknowledged or known by people from ancient times as well? Like, how far back would this philosophy go, do you think?
Well, it's not a philosophy.
Right.
It's what it's
reality
what
kind of
is when you get rid of all philosophies. And this is why it's so difficult for people to get. And this is why every other thing that you've ever heard on sovereignty or common law or all of these other things about this is the way to be free is not it, because they are all some other philosophy. Common law is another philosophy.
Right.
Yeah, the idea of being a freeman on the land or a state national or a sovereign citizen or anything else that you've heard of as a technique or a strategy or something about law is another title. It's another trap. It's another illusion. And the question is, what remains? What is the law when you remove all of the falsity, all of the false law and false projections of false creations that man has put over the top?
Right.
It's really very simple. It's really very simple. I'm a man. You're a man. There are we of mankind on this planet. We have the capacity and ability to express and uphold our own rights, our own law for our own property, that which is ours and ours alone, that which is as against any other man or woman in society, that which is ours. And so we have that one right. What we don't have is a right to do like all of these other human rights. We don't have the right to you don't have the right to anything that you cannot express and uphold as a man or woman. You don't have them. The people are all going around saying, I have the right to this and I have the right to that. And really, we have the right to one thing, and that's to express our own law, wishes, and desires for our own life and property. And that then can include all of the other things that we might otherwise have called rights, the right to speak freely and the right to do these other things. But it comes, first of all, from us facing our own fear of expressing ourselves, of speaking what's true. And they're really very simple blocks that we actually have. And so all of the other concepts around sovereignty or law that exist are generally some kind of fabrication to help us find a way to be more free without doing the facing the fears or without doing the thing that we actually need to do according to the real law. They're all very clever. But it's like, and oftentimes we can involve ourselves in all of these different strategies and techniques, and we might even get some temporary reprieve. You know, they might have some modicum of success. We might manage to get rid of a parking ticket, or we might get someone to leave us alone on our property for a little while, or whatever the thing is. And maybe we took some extra title. Maybe we said we're a freeman on the land, or he said we're a sovereign citizen or a state national or something, in order to get that right, that what we claim as that right. But the reality, all that we do in those situations is break our balls to shift our condition in the world from being that of a pawn to that of a rook. When in fact, the whole time you were the man, sat at the board, moving the rooks, the bishops, the pawns, and the king and queen. And we got so interested in trying to shift our our status within the game.
Yeah.
That we're not seeing the game for what it is.
Right.
And most of us, we even hear this and we say, yeah, I get it. I'm not a person. Yeah, I've heard all this, right? I'm not a person. I get it. Yeah, I know what you're saying. But no, I got that 12, 13, 14 years ago. Yeah, I understand the concept of not a legal person, not these things. But for as long as one is still willing to act as something other than simply a man. So let's say, for example, you are currently a teacher. Let's say you're a teacher or a doctor. It doesn't really matter. We use any example. But for as long as you live your life from a place where you are a teacher and not a man or woman who at times aids our sons and daughters to gain knowledge of life. And as long as you continue to be a doctor rather than a man or a woman who at times heals those of mankind of their ailments, rather than actually relate in a true, real way of who we actually are as souls behind all the facades, then we will always be in a prison and we'll never be free of it. And once you actually drop through these simple lessons and into who we really are, then the rest of it, how to write notices, how to uphold one's rights for one's property, how to press a claim through a court of law, all of these things, they're actually very, very easy.
Those titles are diminishments, like you say in your intro video there to your course, right? I mean, all these titles are diminishments. So even a farmer is a man who plants seeds or whatever, right? Or sows his crops, or like it's really interesting to look at it that way.
Yeah, well, that's all the legal society has essentially done over the centuries, is co-opt anything that is a thing and legislate it. But so you have to decide whether you want to be a thing anymore or not. That is the simple thing about being, whether one wants to be free or not. Am I going to become a thing?
What was your journey like a little bit up to, like you mentioned 12, 13 years ago? You mentioned, you've been sort of in this realm for decades. What was some of your journey like through all this to get to where you are?
It was rough. So, well, when I first discovered, how the law really worked, how the banking system really worked, how money came into existence, how it was created as a debt, how I believed at the time its very creation to be a fraudulent thing. At the same time, I was also discovering how, the lines in the sky and all of these kinds of things, the unnatural. And so being a very moral man, I couldn't in good conscience carry on being a part of it. So I, unlike any other sensible man or woman who accepts these things and internalizes them and then moves their life slowly away, I just walked away from everything. I cancelled every direct debit and standing order. I walked away from my house building company. That was my company.
Wow.
I just walked away. And I quit using money altogether. Literally for over a year, not a pound crossed my palm. While I continued with my studies, it was maybe over the course of a year or two to get to that, of waking up into it.
Yeah, that
so
takes a while. Yeah.
And then I walked away and continued to study everything I could find. And I learned it all, everything about trusts and equity and common law and all of the different things, all the different equitable remedies and all of the other ways that you could deal with stuff. And obviously, when you walk away from that world and there was a mortgage and, car loans and all of those other kind of things, everyone's going to come for you. So I knew that was going to happen. But I had this philosophy at the time. I wouldn't agree with it anymore, but this philosophy at the time that if I apart from the fact that each of those things are fraud, inherently fraud, and therefore I'd be complicit with fraud to continue paying the mortgage or continue paying these things. And I also was kind of on a bit of a spiritual journey, if I'm just going to trust in the universe and the creator to provide what I need. I'm going to give of myself freely. I'm going to carry on doing everything I love, all the things I love to do. I'm going to do them for you, for anyone else. I'll help you out doing what I love. I don't want anything in return, no barter, no anything. But it's going to come back to me somehow, right?
Yeah.
And the things I need will be provided. And so that was it. And so I lived like that for a year. And for another 6 years after that, we didn't trade my energy for money at all. So we carried on working in service for free. It was 7 years in total, just like this. After a year, I was allowed to receive money. I would receive it as a gift on a gift basis. And so what happened was a whole load of things that I ended up losing my home in a kind of battle with the bank, you could say. I was testing everything out, and trying things, and finding, seeing what worked. And I thought I'd really found the key, and I had kind of found half of the key, but not the other half. And so I was there, having kind of established, if you like, my right to freely use the property and having the highest claim to the use of the property, but didn't have the knowledge or ability to press my claim as one of mankind against the men and women who were otherwise intending to trespass by way of theft. And so we lost they basically took a chance that by evicting us, I wouldn't fight back. And I didn't. And so that was, it was a very big, learning experience. It was a very enlightening one. It was almost like letting go of everything as well. So I went through all that, and went off around the world, traveling, creating all different kinds of projects, to New Earth Project and tribunals for natural justice and all other kinds of things, all trying to create a better world. But really had to see in the end that I was still doing the same thing that I'd been doing all along, which was all in all the little ways and all the little places where I didn't want to feel, to face the most uncomfortable emotions I had inside me. I'd faced a lot of fears. I'd made it my thing that I was facing all my fears. But what we do is we face all the ones we're willing to face. What we don't face is the ones that, what were the ones that were most difficult for me? Well, one of the most difficult ones for me was my fear of upsetting women or hurting women.
Yeah.
And so that fear made me then play in some addictive patterns in ways that I was not really willing to see on the surface. And so it was all these subtle, it was just these subtle fears that I wasn't willing to look at that were still controlling my life. And I guess it was probably only 6 years ago that I finally recognized all of those things. Those fears, those other things, looked at them, started speaking what was really true about what I felt and thought in all the remaining corners of my life. And started to clear that up and get a complete picture of what the law really was and how it really worked.
So is that when the second half of the key came to you in a way? Is when you when you really faced all those fears, and that's kind of when it opened up?
Yeah, I mean, everything in life started to open up. There was a whole load of stuff that came then. And I guess the key in law, if you like, in terms of how to express and uphold one's rights, was that previously I'd been operating on this belief that what was wrong with the world was that we were all running around making claims. Everyone was claiming too much, and rather than we should let go of our egos and drop all these claims that we're making and like believing that I'm this, I'm that, or whether it's a lawful claim or whatever it is, and just return to self. And that was a belief that I'd been operating on. Whereas actually looking at the rest of these emotional issues that I'd had going on ultimately led me to find other people, other answers. And one of whom was John Little, who I now do the course that we offer with, who like, no, dude, like the foundation of your ability to uphold your rights is the claim. You need to claim them, express them, and that's it. And it was such an obvious, simple thing that I got it in a minute. And yeah, so yeah, it's been quite a long and interesting journey.
So
I've spoken about it so many times, though.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you going through all that. It's I really appreciate it. It's good to hear the details of your past like that. So are you saying that then the simple part of this is you're laying claim to express your rights, really? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I'm saying it's very basically, but not that you need to. So what we all do when we hear this, is we come out and then we start writing down on like saying, I have a right to this and I have a right to that. And the bottom line is that wherever you're feeling the need, even when you learn this knowledge of how to express and uphold your rights in the world, and you're feeling a need to declare those rights to someone or protect yourself, and put up that wall, you're all 99 times out of 100 doing that to avoid a different fear. And it's going to bite you in the ass in the end. So what we share in the course is, one, the simple way to express and uphold your rights. It's a relatively small but precise amount of knowledge that you need to be able to express your law by way of notice to those of mankind, whoever they may be, and to, if it became necessary, press that claim for trespass, what you consider to be trespass through a court of law, on the one hand, but also to see where you are moving through life in avoidance of your fears. Because you can use this knowledge, you can take the knowledge and you can use it to avoid those fears. You can use it to avoid your fear of forced vaccinations, or avoid your fear of whatever your thing may be that's going on at the moment, whatever you've got going on. But if you do, what's going to happen is the real law is going to continue operating to grind you down. If you use knowledge, no matter what knowledge that is, to avoid a fear, then the attraction that you get next week or next month or next year will be 10 times more severe, and you won't be able to escape it. Because that's what's happening right now on this earth, is we're all being ground down to be forced to face these things. So what will we really do in our knowledge share is show people how to use the knowledge and apply it in the presence of their fears. So you have two schools of thoughts with fear, right? There's one that says fear is all about my beliefs. If I get rid of all of my false beliefs, then I won't have any more fear. And the other school says, no, your fear is, it's in you as a consequence of things that happened to you in the past, traumatic things that happened. Something happened, and now you're afraid that it's going to happen again, and so you have this kind of fear of authority, or fear of this, or fear of that. And the reality is that both of them are true. But 90% of the fear that most of us have are a consequence of false beliefs and ideas and things that we've been taught by by a school system that wasn't ours, by being about who we are, about how the world works. All of those things are based upon false beliefs and ideas that we have and the fears that come from that. And so the knowledge that we share in the course addresses those, just throws those fears out, because that's the easy fears to address, right? The ones that are just based on a false belief, you'd let go of the belief, you get what's true about the thing, and then the fear goes. But there is still that core of fear that you have in your soul that is a consequence of terror related to things that did happen in the past.
Past lives, even, maybe.
Well, it's an entirely different subject. But certainly from the moment of your conception to now, that there is inherent terror that will only be released by allowing to face it and feel through the grief and the things that are actually there behind it. And so the other part of what we do with knowledge share is show where and how to discern between these two, so that you can apply the knowledge in the right way, not act and move based upon fear anymore, but do so based upon loving motives. And by doing this, what we're doing is we're clearing our own. It's kind of like, call it practical spirituality. It's the way to it's the actual manual for how to clear up your karma in a practical sense. So what do you need to do now to not create any more karma by making choices that are based upon fears, one after another, built up on top of each other? How do you take stock and move in the right direction to wisely and conscientiously clean up all of the karma that you've created in this life? And it's very simple, really. And when you actually do it, the beautiful thing is that there's immediate positive feedback, because as soon as you start to do this, your life gets better and clearer, and you feel lighter and freer. And that however small your own prison walls have gotten in life, they start to get bigger and bigger and bigger by applying a very simple set of rules to align our life essentially with the law, the framework of law that is a given on this planet.
So can you give us some examples of, say, like what I would do or what somebody would do that wants to start sort of using this or facing their fears? Like, would you be able to keep one foot in the matrix and one foot in this thing? Or, I mean, I guess part of my fear is that you have to kind of go all in and exit the matrix and then can you come back? Like, is it? I know that's kind of an obscure question, but I think
it's not. Mean. So I love this question, because all it is a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of how it is. So you don't need to exit the system. You simply need to realize that at this point in time already, you are not in the system. You have just projected your own consciousness into it and think that you're in it. You have and always were, you are and always were the man sat at the Monopoly board playing the pieces on the board. You never were the ship or the car or the boot. And you're not now. You're not on the board. You're not in the matrix. You don't need to, it's not a case of staying on the board or getting off the board. It is simply a case of recognizing the fact that you are the man who sat at the board moving all of the pieces. Now, when you recognize that fact, does it mean you have to stop playing Monopoly? No. What it does mean, though, is that you are going to play Monopoly cleanly. You're not going to do things. So let's say there's a common misconception that man and woman is not subject to any statutory law. Now, that is the case if that man or woman has not bound themselves by their own contract to some form of statutory law. So the way the matrix works, the way the system works, is that government creates a set of laws, a set of rules to govern its creations, corporations. And then men and women go out and create corporations and act through them, and they create various different expressions of those. And then we as mankind, we want something from one of those corporations. So we sign a contract with them. And by doing that, we become bound to whatever we sign to say. And usually that corporation has passed on to a man or woman part of the statutory policy that they are obligated to uphold. Now, if you sign something in that way, then you make statute your law. So statutes aren't law, but you as a man will make that statute your law if you sign something with a corporate entity that requires you to make it your law. Yeah?
Okay.
So that is playing, that's how we play Monopoly. Or that's how we have played Monopoly. What we really need to do is simply become conscious of where we're putting our signature on a piece of paper, exactly what we're signing for, and how we relate to those things as well. So there are, for example, if you take out a loan, could you use some debt relief technique to get rid of a loan? Yes, I'm sure you could. Not saying otherwise. But if you, as a man, go and take out a loan and you agree that you want to receive some valuable consideration and you want to agree to pay back this amount, you made an agreement. You know, that's a thing. And you made that your law in some ways. Now, you may be able to use something to get out of that, but karmically still, in some way, there's something there for you. Forgetting the fact that the loan may be fraudulent or whatever, just taking a clean situation where there's borrowed money.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Forgetting that. So with sorry, I just forgot where I was heading in that one.
Well, with the I think what you're going to say is keeping it clean. Like you can that's a contract that you've made for yourself. But when it comes to not letting those contracts happen again in the future, I think is where. Yeah,
and what I was actually going to add was take a situation like a bank account. So we're talking now about the actual practicalities of, am I in the matrix or am I not in the matrix?
Yeah, right.
Well, no, you're the man at the board, but you still want a bank account. Now, the bank account can only be in the name of the playing piece. It can only be in the name of the shoe. Yeah. Okay. So that's what you do. You have to sign to be the shoe for the purpose of creating a bank account. But that's what you sign for, right? You accept the diminishment of status to being a legal person for the purpose to create and open a bank account.
Yeah.
That's fine. However, that doesn't change the fact that the money that is in that account belongs to I and man. See the difference?
Yep.
Yeah. So when we have the chiropractic adjustment that we really need to our consciousness simply to be able to operate as a man in the world, then all of the questions about how do I be in the matrix and do I have 1 foot in and 1 foot out? No, you have your feet, both feet and your ass out of the matrix like it always was. And you wisely and intentionally use the pieces that are necessary for you to live your life in a karmic-free, honorable,
clean
way.
Yeah.
Clean way. And it's very, very simple.
What about when it comes to stuff like government taxes that you don't agree with, or like when you realize your government's killing people and you kind of want to, how do you handle like those situations where you want to sort of deal with taxes, or if they come at you with a mandate and you're like, no, I don't agree with this mandate. I want to keep my body free of this juice. Can you, how does that happen then when you're kind of, you're not intentionally creating something, you're avoiding something, in defense of?
Well, we cover these things in knowledge share in great amount of detail.
Yeah.
But to suffice it to say that if you choose to take the title of an employee, you're going to pay income tax. If you choose to take the title of something else that by statute is defined as only as receiving, as liable to receive income, then you're going to pay income tax. If you decide to take the title of self-employed, whatever, then you're going to pay income tax. If you decide to take the title or to decide in some other way to define the compensation you receive for your time or property as income, you're going to pay income tax. And so you should do, because income is subject to tax. So you just have to decide what you're willing to define and allow your expressions, your creations into the world to be.
Right. And if you
define what labels you are or are not willing to allow to be put upon your own compensation for your own time and energy.
So I could keep it as a man. I could stay as just a man, no title, no thing, and try and keep it clean that way, in a way. If I don't.
Yeah. I mean, you have to change. If you have that coming from any notion of I want to get out of paying taxes, well, that's dishonorable, because you've still got it inside your consciousness that there's an obligation on you to do that. And as a man or woman, you should fulfill your obligations. So if you still feel in your soul there's an obligation on you to do those things and you're trying to get out of something, it's going to bite you in the ass. If you actually see the fact that no one is trying to get tax from a man or woman. No one ever has done. No one's been doing that. People have been trying to trick we of mankind into taking a title of something, a person or something else, so that and thereby us choose to become subject to a whole load of other things. We didn't have to do that. No one asked us to. Certainly there was a lot of nefarious actors tried to trick us into doing that. And it might have worked for a long time, but it's on us, not on anyone else. And you could stop really simply. You don't have to battle. You don't have to battle to do things. You just have to stop doing the things that are out of harmony with the law.
Can you tease that apart a little bit? What if my soul didn't agree with these obligations? Like what if I had sort of, I think, I think you know where I'm going right now with this. Like, I mean, how do we stop supporting a government that's like, I mean, let's just use it like, honestly, that government that's killing people. I mean, how do you, if you've sort of reconciled it in your mind that like, look, I've paid taxes all these years. I want to stop participating in this charade of a government tax system. Like,
yeah, well, I would, first of all, if I was a man or woman coming to the realizations that my tax dollars had been paying for genocide and all of these other things over many years, I would probably spend I did spend a serious amount of time in a state of real repentance about that. I cried about it a lot. The amount of harm that I had done in the past by doing that. And like, if you allow yourself to actually feel about that, I mean, it's really very little different than going and doing some of those actions ourselves. The genocidal things, the putting fluoride in people's water, or whatever it could be, the plethora of things that are happening. It doesn't make any difference whether you go do them yourself or whether you pay someone. If I hired someone to murder you, yeah, I would be the one that would go to prison, right? Yeah, same thing. So, like, we really need to own and take responsibility for what we've been doing. And if anyone that is currently, it's not a case of how do I stop. It's like, look at what you've done. Look at the consequences of what you've done. And if you allow yourself to do that, you will cry about that for months, about what you've just allowed to happen, what you've paid for to happen. And you'll never do it again, and you'll find the way.
Right.
Just stop. You'll just not do that. You'll see that the simple thing. You'll start to see this. Look for the ways how people have been extracting that from you. You'll be able to finally hear the very simple words I'm saying, and then just stop and apply and be free of that.
Using your
like
own,
I say, we put together a 10-week knowledge share to take people through this experience,
right,
start to finish of that, so that by the end you just pop out the top of yourself like, fuck, what have I been doing for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years? And okay, now that was a bad dream. I'm really sorry about the things that I supported. And now I know how not to do it.
Yeah. Which is still intangible to me, right? It's hard for me to wrap my head around that. I mean, I try and be, forget the titles and the positions and the corporations and just act as a man. Yeah, it's hard to logistically, because it must be a little bit different in each country, in each kind of culture. I mean, some cultures it might already be almost no.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got people from pretty much everywhere, really, like probably more than 100 countries now, most of which are civil law countries.
Wow.
Where the common law trial by jury and all of that stuff doesn't really exist. You see, because the principles of law, the rule book for life, the actual matrix behind all of creation, that's the same everywhere. It doesn't change because man's law changes over the top of it. Bottom line is that wherever you are in the world, the system, the legal society, breeds upon controversy only. Where there is no controversy, it cannot adjudicate.
That's interesting. That's okay. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So
when you understand that principle, then and you walk, and your every breath, you're thinking, how can I remove controversy? That's all clearing up your own karma is doing.
Yeah.
Saying, how do I, in a practical sense, how do I remove the controversy from this situation? And that doesn't matter whether it's with your woman or your man at home, or your kids, your parents, or whether it's with a man who at times acts as a judge or an IRS agent or a police officer. The same principle always apply. How can I remove controversy? When you remove controversy, there is nothing to adjudicate. There is nothing there is no way to hook you or anyone else. And that principle can be applied anywhere on earth. It doesn't matter whether you can press your claim before a jury of your peers or not. You won't need to if you understand how to remove controversy at every turn.
Yeah, I remember you talking about this in a way. It's in defense instead of, in a way. I don't know. I've got a note here about this, and it's like, well, instead of you lay it out as far as reality and fiction, and the reality is that's going to harm you based on this fiction that they think. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't mean you're being a cuck, or it doesn't mean you're being passive, or it doesn't mean you have to go along and agree with everything when you remove controversy, right? It means you're sort of turning it around, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's funny whenever you want to think of a good example for something, you can't think of one, can you?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm used to dealing with people all the time who come with their little stories, and then there's their thing to resolve.
Well, and it's even hard for me to think of like where I think for me, the thing that sort of just stands out all the time now is just this sort of these mandates, this jab stuff, right? It's kind of like, well, hey, they're going to fire me because of this, or they won't let me travel because of this. I mean, how do you remove the controversy from those kinds of things? I mean, that seems to be what's highlighted this sort of lack of freedom or the tyranny that's happening right now, because, it's one thing being inside the system, but when the system starts to close in around you and say, hey, you must do something that's actually even not based on science, but they're claiming it as, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, let's say, so each situation is different. So let's say you are an employee and you're in a situation of being an employee. And your employer says, no, to carry on working here, you need to take a vaccine, for example. Now, how do you remove the controversy from that situation? Because you're not going to do it. You're not going to put an experimental substance inside you. At the same time, or what I would do if I was in that situation, because I am acting as an employee. I have decided voluntarily to become the lowest form of slave on this planet at the moment. And therefore I would, accept that. And I'd say, well, because I wouldn't want to just be at odds with my, the person that I worked for, the man that I worked for. So I'd say, well, I believe that to take that vaccine would cause me harm. In fact, I'm certain that to take that vaccine would cause me harm, and here's the evidence of that. And I really don't want to make any. I really don't want to create a controversy with you. So if there's something else that I can do to make you feel safe, then please let me know what that is, and maybe I can work from home. Maybe I can do these things. See, when we're an employee, rather than just sticking up for one and saying, no, I'm not going to do this, and you can do that. You can simply say, I'm going to, I'll consider it to be trespass by way of harm or I consider it to be trespass by way of extortion if you say that I'm going to lose my job if I don't take this vaccine. You can do that, but it's quite oppositional, right? It's not really, and you can press that home. But in doing that, you're also kind of avoiding something. And what you're trying to avoid in yourself. And so in each situation, for each of us, we find it something very different. We each have a very different set of emotional injuries. So we kind of share about how to, express, how to write a notice sequence in that kind of situation to oppose a vaccine mandate, for example, but then to remove the controversy in the specific situation as to, depending on that, how that looks for you.
And me being harmed or believing that I'm going to be harmed is harmful to the company. I mean, you could also say, well, hey, like if I'm harmed, then I can't perform my duties as an employee either. I mean, can you throw?
Well, you can make
extend it to them.
You could make those kind of things, but I'd steer clear of
speculation like that.
Yeah, like trying to please.
Right.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
It's such a weird.
What I would generally
spot.
do, the main thing in all of this is to use these situations that come up in our lives to grow from them emotionally and know ourselves more, our fears and our terrors and our grief and our things that are hiding behind all of those things. So, at this time, if I was, I don't give advice, but if I was going to give advice to a man or woman who found themselves in a situation with their employer around vaccine mandates, considering that this whole thing, the only reason government has any power in the first place is because we've abrogated our own responsibility for taking care of ourselves. The first and foremost is stop being an employee. Why are you an employee? What is it about your own self-worth that prevents you from putting forth your own gift into the world and receiving compensation in the private as one of a kind? What is it that stops you from doing that? So
I see what you mean. That's the bigger question.
It's like we can get, and sometimes one, like, so there might be one man or woman who's very timid, very shy, and they're an employee. And right. So the very best thing they can do, and like I would say to them, the very best thing you can do is go and stand up to this bully who's trying to get you to take a vaccine. And maybe that's the most powerful thing they can do, to go and confront those and like to go and confront the man behind the curtain, right? And stand up to him and learn that they're not like inherently powerless. Most of us have got something else going on though, or a lot of us have got something else going on. We've expressed some kind of other false power into the world in a very different way. We like being angry. We like doing all these other kind of things. We need to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Like being a victim even right now. Yeah.
Exactly. So we need to look at the situations that come in our life and stop trying to reject them and trying to think, how do I make this situation go away? And start saying, what do I need to learn from this? How can I become more of a real integrated man or woman by this situation? See, that's all that's happening here, is that we call our knowledge share the law for mankind.
Yeah.
And, we talk about how we are man and woman, but essentially, really, we're not yet. We are little boys and girls on a path to becoming a man or woman. And what is a man? Yeah, like you look at how we act with each other, how we interact with each other generally. And mostly it's like whenever there's emotional stuff going on between us, we're really just children in the schoolyard. And we're playing that out in these dynamics with people all over our life. And so all we really need to do to be free is to actually learn to be a man or a woman, and to take responsibility for all of those things and say, where am I still a child? Where am I avoiding stepping up and being a man or a woman? Where am I still acting like a child?
And
where am I hiding? Where am I whatever?
Do you think that, do you see that once people start doing this, that things aren't as bad as you thought they were going to be, or you were freer than you thought you were? I mean, I feel like we get caught up in narratives right now where it's way worse on our phone than it is in real life, or it's way worse out there on the other side of the world than it is here. Like, and it's coming here, all these sort of fear narratives, whichever side you're on. I mean, it might be you're on the side of you're scared to death of COVID, or you might be scared to death of the jab or the tyranny or the digital currency or whatever. Like, do you find that once people sort of go through this, they just realize that it's not quite as bad as they thought?
Yeah. Well, every time you actually face a fear, like, life gets better.
Yeah.
Like, tangibly and noticeably.
Yeah.
Now, you see, what most of us are not actually afraid of is we're not really afraid of like forced vaccinations. We're not really afraid of like, medical mandates, and we're not really afraid of like a totalitarian state and daddy government. We're not really afraid of these things. What we're afraid of is facing our own, is feeling our own grief of having been overpowered in the past. Okay, so it's a powerlessness thing. We feel some way powerless in our own soul. And so rather than feel, when you allow yourself to actually feel powerlessness, that's not to stay in this powerless state. I don't mean that. I mean to actually look at what it is. You'll notice that the actual feeling is grief about the fact that you were overpowered in your life. That's some key developmental moments and times. And when you actually stop doing all the actions out in the world to avoid your powerlessness, i.e. be afraid of forced vaccines and reject them and all of those kinds of things, then you allow yourself to feel those things, then you become no longer powerless. You also don't become powerful, because most people who feel powerful have just found a different way of coping with their powerlessness via more aggressive means. So when you allow yourself to feel those things, you just drop through both sides of that. It doesn't matter which side you're coming from. You drop through it, and you're neither powerful nor powerless. You're simply man that doesn't have a fear of these things, because no one has the power to dictate who you are as a soul. Yeah. And the more you deal with those emotions that are inside yourself, the more you start to live life as an experience as a soul who has his spiritual bodies and his physical bodies to walk through the world with, not as an intellectual concept, but because the soul is an emotional being. And when you get straight emotionally inside, that's how you feel as you walk through the world. And therefore, whenever you relate to a man or a woman who at times acts as some agent, someone who would be a doctor or a government agent, you relate to them as that little child that's in them. That's like, oh my God, he's just a little boy that still is powerless. And like, you're not afraid of a little boy that's powerless and just expressing that powerlessness. Can he do something to harm your physical body? Yeah, he can, but you're not going to have fear of that anymore either. And so because you're not having fear of it, it's not likely to be your attraction either.
Right.
And the more and more you go into this, the more clearer you get. And the questions that you would have about what's it like then? What's it like to not have a fear about this? And what's it like when I don't have these illusions? It's not, the more you become integrated, the less spiritual it becomes, because it all comes down into this body and integrates. There's nothing high about it. The more developed your spiritual condition gets, the more grounded you feel, the more ordinary you feel, and the less any notion of these spiritual experiences that one has as a high thing, they become integrated. The most profound spiritual experience you've ever had in your life becomes something that is a part of your momentary experience, and therefore it doesn't feel high or blissful or remarkable anymore. It just is your normal integrated state. And so the more you do, but the way that you integrate those things is not by continuing to meditate and do yoga and do all of the other things. It's by dealing with the monster under the bed.
Yeah.
And then it just comes home and integrates.
That's fascinating. It's interesting. Yeah. Following you, there's a spiritual process that'll sort of end up grounding you in this physical existence. That's interesting.
Yeah. So the reality is that the way to navigate the legal society is the same way is the same rules, the same thing to do as how to heal your soul and clear your karma. It's the same process. remove controversy, come to peace, bring forth remedy.
Okay.
Everywhere you go.
Interesting.
Feel everything, tell the truth, and keep moving. You could boil a whole journey down into 6 words.
Yeah.
Tell the truth, everything you can see, find, and feel about yourself. Speak what's true. Feel everything that triggers, and then move. Don't stay sat still and stuck. And that's it. That's it. If you do that, you do that. You never you move fast.
Yeah, I love that. Do you think we covered everything here? Or?
Well, I think that's. I think we certainly covered the bones.
It's a pretty good spot to probably end there on the 6 pieces there. So, how do people find your work and take this course and get more involved in this? We'll put it all in the show notes, but it's good if people don't look at the show notes to hear the exact website and stuff.
Yeah, sure. It's thesovereign'sway.com. It's a private membership club, so you can see very little without actually joining up. We bring every man and woman into the private. And yeah, from there you can find your way into the knowledge share very easily. It's a 10-week deep dive discovery into who you are as a man or woman and how to remove controversy, bring forth peace and remedy to your life and everything around you. The real way to be free and shift the perspective on what's really happening in the world and your place in relation to it. And this is the only way we change it. Whatever we do as an individual or a group to oppose the current status quo is going to aggrandize it in some way. It's going to make it bigger.
Like what you resist persists kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like Tai Chi, right? Or Kung Fu. When someone comes at you and like lunges at you, the whole art is to like kind of take that energy and move it back and put it back where it came from. That's all we need. That's all we need to learn how to do is dance like that. We don't want to attack something. When you attack someone and then they can absorb that energy. They can use your energy. We need to stop doing that and remove the controversy and come to peace. So, and as we do that, as each man or woman starts to do that in their life, then we remove, that is what reduces and diminishes the power of government on this planet. Yeah, it has power at the moment relative to the number of people that give their emotional energy to it. So we have to withdraw that and come clean within ourselves. And yes, it's important to create alternative groups and communities and systems and these kinds of things. But if you're still afraid of daddy government while you're doing it, or you're doing that to avoid your fears of that, then it's not going to work. It's going to be another thing that the government will oppose and will help make it bigger. Yeah, you have to deal with the monster under the bed. And as each of us do this, we get free.
Have you seen a pretty big shift in the last couple of years?
Sorry?
Have you seen a pretty big shift in the last couple of years?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the amount of people that are actually now willing. I mean, there was no one before a couple of years ago. There was no one that was willing to look at themselves really in a truly earnest way. Yeah, there were quite a lot of people on a spiritual journey, but mostly on a journey of spiritual bypassing, finding spiritual techniques to avoid themselves. Now, for the very first time, there's actually, might still be a small percentage, but there's actually a core of people who are really willing to look at themselves and move. And it's these people that will change the world.
That's interesting.
Maybe you're one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Maybe you're one of them. Yeah.
Well, I feel like in some ways I've gone through some of this work unconsciously. In some ways I'm still trapped in the other paradigm. I've been through recovery, like addiction recovery and stuff. So there's been a lot of like step work, let's say many years ago, a lot of sort of like trying to look at my own part in things, which I think has really helped, but I'm still also stuck in this resistance mode against things. So
the beauty of the law is that even when it comes to it makes addiction recovery like a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you are willing to look at the emotional reason that was driving the addiction in the first place, there is no desire left to do it. So we don't have to go through a 12-step process anymore. We don't have to go through all of the other things. We simply have to apply the knowledge of law in relation to ourselves. And it becomes like an expansive and beautiful process to go through. That's the message I want to share with the world, really, about how beautiful life can get fast.
All right. Thanks.
If we look in the right places.
Thanks, Greg. It's been a great chat. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
Yeah, I'll let you know when it comes out, and we'll put links in the show notes to everything. And good luck teaching people this in the future.
Thank you.
And we'll be in touch. Okay, buddy. See ya.
I'm walking gingerly through the rat race. Take a look at the big old smile on my face. Kicking around down by the pool of narcissists. The people are many, they preen themselves, oh how they navel gaze. Somewhere over that hill, the gloomy skies cease to exist. I'm climbing that hill, I pass by and pity the poor Sisyphus. I go into hyperdrive, turn into a beam of light. I'm strolling down a static electric avenue. The people are predictable, they say good morning, how do you do? When out of nowhere, a randomly pure angel in the crosswalk bumps into me, and in doing so knocks all the evil and all the wind out of me. And it's black as tar, ugly as ever, and of no apology. This angelic mama sings heavenly of the truest theology. Together we're a seraphim dream, forever young with no chronology. 1,000 years from now we'll be written into ancient mythology. We go into hyperdrive, turn into a beam of light. Can you tell me about the view up there? It's sparkling remarkably, the air is crystal clear. Well, please won't you tell me what it takes to transcend this place? A little bit of heart and a whole lot of soul. Take a look at the big old smile on my face, as my angel says dance with me and your life will never ever ever be dull. I go into hyperdrive, turn into a beam of light. 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 Turn into a beam of light.